Hi everybody, it's crazy, it's Monday, and it's time for the UPBGE video of the week. Now, before I get started, gotta give a shout out to my trusted because you guys rock. To my crazy fam, I love you guys. And to my patrons, thank you for your continued support. Now, we're up to episode number 33, and we left off last week's with joysticks. And let me see if I can get this right, because I did a little bit of rearranging. Yeah, unfortunately, I still don't have my my green screen up, so yeah, no ugly mug today. But we left off with joysticks, and so let's go ahead and get started. Don't listen to those kinetic fanboys. Joysticks are still here to stay. Okay, in the figure below shows the joysticks right here. Okay, so start by selecting your joystick index. Okay, which means you can work with multiple joysticks in the same game. For every joystick sensor, you can control one of the following: a hat, an axis, a button, and single axis. So you can, for each one of these, so each index would be one joystick control. Okay, same thing as keyboard, just a little bit different. Okay, so the next is keyboard. Okay, I was kind of hoping they would go a little bit further with the with joysticks, because I never really learned much about it, but they do go on a little bit further later on. Okay, so let's get on to the keyboard. The keyboard says you don't want to map your keyboard key by key to individual keyboard sensors, which is this one right here. And also, I have it set up on this one, which let me switch to it. There we go. Okay, so you guys also have your keyboard here. Okay, see, but yet you can. In order to provide flexibility for game developers, the game engine can control actions on an individual key basis. Capture modifiers, traditionally Alt, Control, and Shift, but extended to any key. So these two right here, like if you have your space here and you have another space, so if you double space, you can't really hold double space. Let's say A, okay? So if you're holding A and you hit spacebar, you can power jump. Okay, that's technically kind of what that would be. Okay, so there we go. Now I'm gonna clear that back off. That's basically what that's for. Your extra modifiers are just, your control key or any other key. You can have it to where you have to hit shift and right shift and jump to jump, a certain way. If you hit those three keys together, it's a power jump or something. It could be just about anything you can put your mind to. Okay. All right. So continue on. I remember where I was at. Okay, for the latter, the option all keys linked to a Python controller is the way to go. Although for a full Python approach, you don't even need the keyboard sensor, because you would just use an always sensor and you would just have your keys recognized that way. But some people do like to use a keyboard sensor in order to trigger it, and if you put it on all keys, okay, that's what this one is for. When you have that set, see how it unlightens them and that darkens them, so that way you can't put anything in. So any key you put and you link that to a Python controller, okay, and you have your script, your module called, all keys, just for example. Okay, oops, I'm typing on the wrong spot here. All keys. Okay, so say, actually it would be a module, so you'd actually have to have keys dot. Okay, so if over here, there we go. So if over here you have one called keys.py, okay, and somewhere in here in your Python coding, you would have, you would define all keys, okay, and you would define all your keys, okay, and that would all be in this area here. Okay, so that when this, whenever you hit any key, it would come to here and say, okay, look for if the space key was pressed or if the W key was pressed. Or, Python is a little bit trickier. I mean, I actually learned a little bit of Python, but for the most part, you can actually do keyboard sensors and stuff like that any way you want. Usually what I do is I just put them on a motion, and you can actually move anything around, okay? So with that being said, let's move on, okay? Now the log toggle and target toggle work together, okay? When the log toggle property value is true, in other words, when this is a boolean, it's set to true, okay, and a string is set as a target, okay, so your target is a string, which is a text. We're going to use text in this one. You can keep track of all the pressed keys by a given sensor. It can be used for debugging or even for direct input of text for a property. Okay, so if somebody is constantly hitting the A key and you have this hooked to a controller that actually recognizes it, okay, and then prints it back to the text, that text will pop up on your screen, A, or it'll pop up here in your system console, okay? You know, a lot of people don't know about this, you know, especially if you're first starting out. That is your saving grace when it comes to games, y'all, okay? You want to toggle your system console to see what it does and why isn't it working right. Because a lot of times it'll give you an error code. It'll let you know what the Python error code is, especially if you're running Python. It'll say, okay, what line it's on and so on and so forth. We'll get further into that later on. Right now, we're not going to worry about that. We're worried more about these guys. Okay, so key status on Python. There you go. The keyboard sensor will send a positive pulse when a specific key is pressed down, and a negative one when it is released. Okay? The status of the key is represented by Python constants. BGE.logic.kx underscore input underscore just underscore activated right when it is pressed, okay. See, yeah, and bge.logic.kx, you know, same thing, input underscore dot or underscore active, excuse me. I'll just click over here. Hang on, let me switch over to what I'm showing. Okay, here we go. So it's gonna, you know, when a constraint is put, it's gonna put that for this, okay, whenever it's pressed. When this is said, while it is being held, okay, it's going to say this. It's going to say that it is active. This is just activated. This is active. And then this one is when you let off the key, right after it's been released. Its status can only be accessed from a Python controller. Like I was telling you up here, you know, you can have it when it gets this input here, okay, over in, if I can do it right, over in here, okay, when it says, okay, if bge.logic.kx underscore input underscore just underscore activated dot positive, then it's going to do this. Okay, so that's some Python stuff that you need to keep in mind, because a lot of times Python working will actually help you out in your logic bricks. Okay, so let's get onto the mouse, which is one of my favorite that I like to use because it's just fun. Okay, so the mouse sensor is used to control the mouse input in the game. It can be used entirely with logic bricks or integrated with Python. Be aware that individual sensors are needed to handle different mouse events, and most of them are not handled per object. Okay, so it's saying see figure 3.14. I'm assuming that it's just the mouse one. Okay, so if we go up here and we go to mouse, and what it's talking about is these are the only events it will do for a mouse. That's it. It will not do anything else. It won't do all keys. You know, the one I like the most is mouse movement. Okay, because mouse movement itself does a lot of things. Okay, you can actually have it linked to a mouse look actuator, and you can control which way, like for example, the cube rotates. It will rotate on the x-axis, I'm sorry, the z-axis, to where it will turn left and right, or it can go on the y-axis where it rotates up and down. Okay, so it's pretty neat. A lot of people don't know about this. There was a script going around in Python that did this exact same function back before it actually had this sensory that was worthwhile because this was so buggy at one time, if I remember correctly. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, or drop on over to my server and let me know. But with the mouse, it was different. So let's read on. Okay, so mouse inputs. General input: movement, wheel down, wheel up, right button, middle button, left button. Okay, that was these right here. Okay, that's all these. Now, as you see, it looks like there's a lot more, doesn't it? Yes, because you got mouse over any, mouse over. Let's see. Yeah, they don't have those two in there. Okay, wheel down, wheel up. You know, those were new as of, I believe it was 2.56, I think. Maybe it might be later on. It might be 2.6. But nonetheless, they put these in, and they actually work great, because mouse over any is anything you put a mouse over. As soon as your mouse touches it, it says, okay, it's over this object now. Okay? The regular mouse over, okay, is that specific one. It has to be over that specific one that you have it set on before it will work. So if you went over this one, it wouldn't work at all. Okay? You also have mouse movement. We'll get into a lot more of these here in just a minute. Okay, mouse actions. Per object, mouse over and mouse over any. Okay, there it goes. They're all there. Yeah, okay. Yeah, and they do have wheel up and wheel down. Okay, so it was after 2.6. All right, so if you run an actuator when a mouse input is triggered, for example, left button, the action will happen. Regardless of where the click is, if you need an actuator to happen when you click on one particular object, then you need a mouse over and a left button linked through an AND controller. So what it's saying is you need the mouse over, okay, like I was just talking about, and oops, no, yeah, we need another mouse. And by default, it usually sets it by left, and then you would link these to an AND controller, okay, and then that would actually do something whenever you would come across this, and then you would click on it. When you click on it, then it would do something, okay? So that's what these two do, okay? This one is whenever it's over a particular one. Like right now, it is set on, let's see, what is it? Yeah, it's called keyboard, okay? So that's this one right here that it's set on. So whenever you have a mouse over and a mouse left button, you have to be on left over here, click, basically set on this, excuse me, and then click on this. If you were on this one and you tried to click, you would do absolutely nothing because it doesn't have that sensor unless you had that sensor hooked for that one. Okay? Hope I didn't confuse it. Okay. Let's see, where was I? If you need an actuator to happen when you click on one particular object, then you need a mouse over and a left button and a controller. Okay? Let's see, collision physics and mouse click. In order to be clickable, an object must have collision enabled in the physics panel. In other words, this one, okay, since it's selected, I don't know why it's got two of them on here, but I'm going to go to the, what was it, properties. Yeah, okay, and you come over here to the physics panel. I don't know why I don't have no collision on this one, but you actually have to set this with collision, okay? You must have a collision enabled, okay? And a lot of people choose dynamic, okay? Because as long as it's dynamically done, then you can actually click it, okay? I believe that's how it used to be. I'm not sure if it is now. That's one thing I've been messing around with this week. I was playing around with an idea. I was actually using 0.2.5, but I was keeping this one at 0.2.0 because of the fact that it's the old school look. It doesn't have all this new shader stuff. I will bring this one up just to show y'all real quick. See, this is the new 0.2.5. They changed it up a little bit more so for gaming. It's automatically set up for a BGE. And it's got your logic bricks, it's got all your stuff over here for the game engine building. Okay, so I just wanted to show y'all that because I might actually do that on next week. So if y'all think that's a good idea, let me know. We're gonna leave off with armatures for next week. Let's see, let me go ahead and there we go. We're going to leave that for next week because I am past my 15-minute mark, and I try to keep it simple for you guys and do certain little segments each time, so that way y'all can, actually retain that knowledge, and then you can go back to other videos to, to catch each segment that I do. So that way, if you're like, oh man, what was that one he was talking about the mouse? Oh yeah, I know which one it was. It was over there with the joystick one, that when he did episode 33, so on and so forth. You can go back to that episode, and that's what I try to do for y'all because I don't want it to be like long-winded and takes 45 minutes to go through a partial chapter, and then next you got too much stuff that's involved in it. Okay, so without further ado, we'll go ahead and end it for today, and we shall see y'all next time.